Good morning, everybody. I'm Steven Urakawa. I'm a project manager for Mid-Columbia Fisheries. This proposal will be for the Salmon Creek Culvert design, prison number 251181, going through the regular SRFB project. This project's in the Cabin Creek watershed in the Upper Yakima. Within the Cabin Creek watershed is this sub watershed that we've named Salmon Creek. To the best of our knowledge, it's not a named stream. It's just the name that the landowner up there kind of gave it and just sort of stuck. This project came out of the Cabin Creek Restoration Assessment, which was a project that was funded by Surf Boards a couple of years back. Mid-Columbia Fisheries looked at opportunities for restoration in the Cabin Creek watershed. The big takeaway from that was that Cabin Creek, the main stem Cabin Creek, is severely limited in our restoration opportunities due to sediment input from the Falls Hill landslide. So the channel bed shifts and any restoration action that we could take in Cabin Creek would likely get either washed away, scoured out. But the tributaries specifically downstream of the landslide, including Salmon Creek, have great potential to provide fish rearing habitat. Two goals that we identified in the Cabin Creek assessment were improving fish passage in the watershed and increasing salmonid use, which this project, the Salmon Creek culvert removal, hits both of those. In Cabin Creek, there's documented Mid-Columbia steelhead and spring Chinook salmon use by WDFW's ecological interactions team, along with resident salmonids, rainbow trout, cutthroat trout, and non-native eastern brook trout. In 2023, when we conducted our habitat assessment, we documented spring Chinook salmon in Salmon Creek up to these two culverts, along with eastern brook trout. There aren't any priority actions for the Cabin Creek watershed, and certainly not for Salmon Creek, but fish passage is an important limiting factor for fishing in the region. So zooming down here into the project reach, both culverts are located on Cabin Creek Road, and then one is up just upstream of Cabin Creek Road, where it intersects Salmon Creek. Both culverts are in state parks, Washington State Parks land, although the county is a important stakeholder as they own and maintain the road. So the first culvert here, which you may hear me refer to it as downstream culvert or the road culvert. This is the major fish barrier. It's 0% passable, assessed by DFW in 2015. This picture on the left here was taken just last week, so high water, and there's still probably an 18-inch drop height at least. And that middle picture was taken in the summer. Actually, I think it was late August or September of 2023, which we observed no flow through the culvert. We actually had observed that this culvert was perforated part of the way through, and there's actually flow underneath the culvert, underneath the road. And then that far picture is just the upstream end looking down at that road culvert. We'd be looking to design removal and replacement of this, although we haven't identified what that structure might look like yet. The county is the major stakeholder here, and they would like to maintain access, of course. So removal and replacement for sure on this road culvert. The second culvert, which is the upstream culvert, is about, it might be 40 feet upstream of this road culvert. It's on state parks land, and they have mentioned that they would like to keep some sort of access across Salmon Creek, but part of our proposal is looking to investigate what those acceptable alternatives would be if they would like to keep just foot traffic, or if they would like ATV, snowmobile access across the creek. This culvert is less of a fish barrier, but if we're gonna remove and replace the downstream culvert, this one, like I said, it might be 40 feet upstream. It's that both of these culverts are pretty short succession. And above Salmon Creek, above these culverts, Salmon Creek is looks to be great for steelhead habitat, specifically steelhead rearing habitat. The 2008 NOAA habitat model found that it was plausibly steelhead rearing habitat. There's plenty of beaver activity up above the culvert. There's a lot of beaver activity below the culverts too, but this picture here was taken again last week. That's a alder forest, so that's not a dead stream bed, but yeah, there's beaver activity up there. There's a bunch of different variety of habitats, from more of a low medium power stream there, like in the picture on the right, which is taken in low water, moving into a wetland complex, mosaic. Salmon Creek is also cold. So as part of the restoration assessment, we looked at water temperatures in Cabin Creek and all of the major tributaries, including Salmon Creek. Salmon Creek was about 2 degrees Celsius cooler than Cabin Creek, and about 3 to 4 degrees Celsius cooler than the Upper Yakima in August. And finally, Salmon Creek above these two culverts doesn't have any other known fish passage barriers. There's no agriculture, there's no irrigation takeouts that we know of, no road crossings. So we would be opening up about 1.5 miles, I think 1.9 miles of stream for salmon rearing. This is the proposal, what we're asking for, and our estimated completion. We're asking for funds for 60% permit ready designs, which we expect to be completed near the end of the first year of funding, and then working on cultural resource assessment and acquiring whatever permits we'll need at that point. Our total ask is $169.50. And this picture, although it's covered up by the graph here, is of that downstream, that road culvert. And I just wanted to point out, if you look to the right there, there's flow actually behind where the output is. Like I said, that road culvert is in need of replacement. Once we have our permit ready designs, construction costs at this point, we're planning to go through the fish barrier removal board and leveraging surfboard funds as match. They should be able to provide, we'd be asking for all implementation funds at that point. That would be in 2027. So we do have a plan once permit ready designs are completed to continue pushing this project forward to implementation. I kind of breezed by my presentation, so I've got lots of time for questions. So.
Gathering their thoughts.
Yeah.
I was just curious with what you know on the split in the amount of during the summertime, the water coming down Salmon Creek versus Cabin Creek.
Cabin Creek is definitely the major tributary here. I don't remember what we had the water quality team at DFW. They did some surveying out there. I don't remember what our summer output was for Cabin Creek. They had estimated our output for Salmon Creek at about maybe 1.5 to 2 CFS in the summer.
This is the dry reach of Cabin Creek. This drops into the bottom of it. So there's big chunks of Cabin Creek there that flow with CRI through the center.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes hard to slow a cabin in general, because they're like a mile upstream of the railroad crossing. It's completely sucked out, and then it turns into a wetland matrix type of feel where a lot of the flow comes through like this little feature like near the road access up there. So it's kind of like partition flow and cabin.
This comes in just to where there's water's re-emerging in Cabin, so this is connected, correct?
Yes, so Salmon Creek meets Cabin Creek near the railroad tracks, if anybody's familiar there. Which, yeah, it's downstream of the deep water breach.
Question from Mark. What is the surrounding land ownership / management?
So most of the Cabin Creek watershed is in public ownership. For Salmon Creek, it's in state parks ownership. Further up in the watershed is Forest Service, and I believe DNR. In check the board. So everything that was part of the part of what kicked off the Cabin Creek restoration assessment was that Cabin Creek, which was in primarily timber production and owned by Plum Creek, it transferred over into public ownership. What kind of restoration opportunities do we have?
And Shannon asks, what type of traffic is moving through this area?
In the summer, well, I guess year-round, primarily recreation. Cabin Creek is pretty popular as far as summer recreation, summer tourism. Salmon Creek is sort of set back off of the road, so I haven't observed very many recreators in Salmon Creek. It's also, as stated previously, a fairly small tributary, so angling opportunities are limited. People aren't swimming or bathing in the stream.
And it's also the access road to the snow park parking, right? So probably a big chunk of the annual traffic is people driving to the snow park. Half mile up Cabin Creek.
Yeah,
That's maybe the snowmobile trail.
Alex, want to encourage you to speak up.
Oh, sorry.
I can really. Sure.
What do we know about fish use above the barriers? Has there been any up there?
so through the restoration assessment, we did a habitat survey up there. We didn't observe, I was the one that did the assessment, or was on the team that did the assessment. I think I saw maybe a couple of cutthroat above the barriers, so there's definitely a bottleneck there. And we observed Chinook juveniles in the splash pool below the culvert there. Right,
1 second.
thanks. In that splash pool there was Chinook there, so at least in our mind, they're using habitat up to the culverts. They can't get past the culverts. If we were to remove the culverts, they would likely move up at least some portion of Salmon Creek and utilize that habitat.
Any spawning that you know of below the culverts?
Not that I know of. There's a beaver wetland complex downstream that currently isn't great spawning habitat. I believe that there was some spawning observed in Cabin Creek in the past, but hasn't for several years.
Anyone else?
Any additional thoughts from you, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Salmon Creek is a smaller tributary. As we just sort of discussed, we observed fish right up to the culvert. we were to remove the culvert, they would likely move upstream into that habitat. No further barriers upstream, no documented barriers upstream. This is actually just outside of the snow park here in high water upstream of a beaver dam. So there's potential, there's complex habitat. It's cooler than Cabot Creek.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if Becca would like to add anything as well.
I thought you did a really good job, Stephen. No, I think you touched on this, but I'll just reiterate that State Parks is asking that we replace the access on the upstream culvert. And we are hoping that there'll be an opportunity to really talk about what that access needs to look like as part of the design process, and hopefully won't require the same level of access that's currently there.
Awesome. One quick thought, doesn't really affect the surfboard review, but yes, Stephen, in fact, we should talk offline about the fish barrier mark removal and the different cycles that's on. Think about how that will relate.
Right. Thank you much, Steve.
Thank you.